Hi, guys, and welcome to a very special podcast. I am your host this time around, Hotshot Ginger, and with me I have my other usual host who usually drives this thing, Giant Music.
Hi, I am Giant Music and I am here today. Yes. Hi.
He's playing second fiddle today for once, and we actually have another guest with us, as you guys remember, GoProKyo.
Hello.
Alright, so you guys might already be asking why is Hotshot running the reins on this one. That's because this isn't a anime podcasters episode. This is a remembrance podcast. So what that means is, as I'm sure you guys know by now, recently we lost one of the most creative minds that we've ever seen, Stan Lee from Marvel. And we all have grown up with Marvel, with Stan Lee's creations, and we just wanted to make a little podcast just talking about him, just remembering him. And with it being in this time of year, we didn't really think that there was a better time of year to do it. So that's exactly what this is going to be around.
Yeah, it's essentially an homage to Stanley.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I'm running the reins on this one, because out of the three of us, I've probably grown up with Stan Lee the most.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these guys know a lot more about anime than I do. I know a lot more about comic stuff than they do. So I'm in charge.
Yeah, honestly, Hotshot, when I first heard about the unfortunate passing of Stanley, the first reaction was like, "Oh my god, no, this is horrible." My second thought was, "Oh my god, where is Hotshot going to react? How is he going to react to this? That's going to hurt him so badly. It's going to be something that's going to be really hard for him." And that's why I essentially reached out to you, asking you if you want to do this podcast where you would host it. I'm nothing but a guest for this one, and we're here to remember Stan Lee. We're here to give homage to him and to really appreciate all the amazing work sorry, I don't want to get emotional, but just to appreciate all of the hard work he's put into the Marvel universe. An amazing creative mind, so absolutely in agreement with you.
Exactly. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing. We're not going to be going like what we think the top 5 Stan Lee creations are or what we think the best arc that he ever created is. We're not going to be doing any of that. So this podcast is going to be a little bit different because what I'm going to have us do, we're each going to talk a little bit about the Stan Lee creation that we grew up with the most and talk a little bit about those creations, as well as something very special that I'm going to tell you guys towards the end. So with that in mind, Jaden, you usually have me go first on whenever we do lists, so I want you to tell me what Stan Lee creation, like what Marvel property that you grew up with. Which one are you the most familiar with that got you into Marvel in the first place?
I think the one that's the most familiar to me, and I think it's going to be the most familiar to many of us, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the case for you, would be the Spider-Man universe. Essentially, Spider-Man was an amazing character, an amazing hero that Stan Lee had created. Because Peter Parker was the nerd who was bullied in high school, and he gets bitten by the spider, and everything changes because of that. He becomes a superhero, and his life is never the same ever again. And we see him moving from nerd to top grade hero, and we also see all of the hardships and battles he goes through. I was into Spider-Man, but the reason why I was really into Spider-Man is also because of my little brother, who was a huge Marvel nerd. He loves this stuff so much, and just growing up with Spider-Man, it honestly made me and my brother really close, because it would be one of the things we love talking and nerding out about. We would have these Spider-Man toys and Spider-Man posters, and we would play around all the time with just all the Spider-Man merchandise. So the one I'm most common with, and the one I grew up the most with, would have to be Spider-Man. I also have other favorites. Obviously, a personal favorite for me is Hulk. Hulk will always be a hero that is just insane to me. Just Bruce Banner is just like, I don't have words to describe how amazing of a character the Hulk was to me, and Spider-Man. So I would say those two for sure.
Okay. And truth told, if I left it free reign, I feel like all three of us would just be talking about nothing but Spider-Man. Especially with like all the recent release stuff that he's getting out, like the recent PS4 game, the DLC stuff for that, the Into the Spider-Verse that's coming out, and everything else. And I know,
wasn't there something else that was going on? Oh right, Venom came out
and
last
Venom,
month.
yeah. So with Spider-Man getting all this coverage, it's really hard not to have a draw to talk about him. And Spider-Man, to me anyway, I guess we'll just roll into my talk. Spider-Man was the one that I grew up with the most, and he is to this day my favorite Marvel character, and that it goes for almost every iteration. But Jane, since you talked a little bit about Spidey already, I'm actually going to go ahead and talk about one of my other favorites, Captain America. And
I love Captain America. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us do. Like, again, it's really hard to find a character in Marvel that you just absolutely hate unless they're so like down, like grade B, that you don't even know their names in the first place. The ones that you know, you really know. So with with Captain America, he was alive in the time of World War II and was rejected at every turn to try and fight for his country, even though he always had a good heart and always tried to fight for what's right despite like the odds of him winning, and never gave up. He had this incredible drive towards him. And eventually it led him into getting subjected to the Super Soldier Project that injected him and gave him super strength, super speed, basically made him into the perfect soldier and made him into the first Avenger. At the end of World War II, he drove a jet filled with bombs into the icy glaciers and froze him, and he stayed frozen until S.H.I.E.L.D. revived him in modern times. And I'm picking Cap because, honestly, he is my favorite leader character in Marvel. Like, I love his can-do attitude. I love how he's always willing to help others. And he is probably the one I grew up with the second most, next to Spidey. And aside from X-Men, actually, now that I think about it. But with Captain America, like, I feel like it would actually be a young Stan Lee with how caring and giving he is to everybody. But at the same time, it would be like a no-nonsense kind of talk with everybody who was going against him and that kind of thing. Plus, I mean, the iconic shield. You can't really think of Marvel without thinking Captain America's shield. You may not even like Cap, but you know the shield.
Yeah, that's part of him. It's a huge thing, and I just remember like Captain America to me. And this is gonna sound silly because I'm not American, but to me, what Captain America represented
Captain Canada, go on.
What? No, he represented the American dream. The one where you start from nothing and you grow into this amazing character, and obviously he goes through this because of transformation in his situation, but he made something out of what he had, and he became a hero, and he rose, and he became an Avenger, and he led the Avengers to defeating all these villains, and he's just he's the nucleus a little bit of the Marvel universe. I wouldn't say he's the nucleus, but he's part of that nucleus. He's part of the center of it. He is very commonly known when you think about Marvel. Like you said, we think about Captain America very quickly. So that hero was not maybe one that I grew up with the most, but it's one that I appreciated a lot because of what he represented and what he brought to the table. And like, just the more I'm thinking about it, all of these heroes that we enjoy and all of these accomplishments they've had, Stan Lee had such a creative mind to come up with all of these. It blows my mind how many of these heroes there are, and these are all stemming from Stan Lee. Like, that's crazy to me, and I know it's a lot of people. This is common knowledge, but just think about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, especially with how like the expanded universe and everything else, that when you really get into it, like there's a whole bunch of different Marvel universes out there. There's the Ultimate Universe. I'm mainly naming Spider-Man universes, but bear with me. There's the Amazing Universe, Ultimate Universe. And I don't even know the names of all of them because that's how many are. I know I only listed 2, but bear with me there. And just with like those different variations of the same character, but with every single one keeping like the same core aspect of said character, it's still kind of mind-blowing. That way you can tell different stories that you couldn't tell with one version of the character, but the other one it would fit really well. And that it goes for literally everybody in the Marvel universe. And before I get too much on a tangent on that, Kyo, we haven't even heard which one that you usually grew up with because we got off on this talk. So you want to go ahead and fill us in here?
I wasn't very exposed to comics very much as a kid, but I do remember like occasionally going over to a friend's house, and since my family never had cable, we would like the most I would get to watch cable is like literally anyone else's house but mine. So like I remember like getting up on Saturday mornings after Friday night on a school or after school, and like getting up to like watch the Hulk cartoon or the Spider-Man cartoon, and like that was like I always had like a strange understanding for heroes. Like I didn't know that there were like two separate companies that were like really like butting heads. Like as far as I knew, I always assumed that like Batman and like Superman and Spider-Man and Captain America, like they were all like part of like this big comic book universe together. And
I totally agree with that. I had that same thing. Like, for a long time. And then my brother's like, no, there's Marvel and then there's DC. I was like, okay, thank you for clearing that up. But yes, absolutely.
And several others. But yeah, those are the first two that everybody thinks of.
Yeah, usually.
Like there's Marvel, there's DC, there's Dark Horse, there's what do the Turtles belong to?
They had their own, or they were part of their own. There's like Archie Comics.
Okay,
and stuff.
there's
like,
Archie Comics. There's Shell Shock, or that's just
Shell
what I'm
Shock.
calling it
That's
because
not what it is. I promise you, that's not.
I know that's not what it is, but that's what I'm calling it because it only has the turtles that matter. So
like for me, heroes kind of just meshed together. I didn't really like see like a divide between the two, but I always like my favorite one was always Hulk. Like I just liked the idea of a raging tank type of character. Like, and on top of that, green was always a favorite color for me. Like that was usually one of my biggest draws for
maybe a little
cartoons.
bias here.
Yeah, I might be. Yeah. Well, like that's what this whole thing is about. That's why there's three people on the podcast at the same time right now. So
isn't your okay? And I'm just spitballing this right now. This can be another talk that we get into too. But your current favorite right now is either Ghost Rider or Punisher, or is it still Hulk?
I don't know a damn thing about Punisher. So
okay, fair enough. But Ghost
Rider is probably my favorite, like just based on like design. Like that's probably the
only
most
like
metal. That's the most metal design you could come up with. Like that's a
it's a biker with a skull that's on fire.
It's freaking awesome. That's like that's one of my favorites just based on design. And like on top of that, I have kind of dabbled in like the older like comics with it. Like I read some of the I don't know. I don't remember how old the comics are, but I really did enjoy like reading some of the comics as a kid. Like I didn't get into like the Ghost Rider comics until I was like at least 12 or 11, one of the two.
Admittedly, growing up, I read way more comics than I do now.
Yeah.
Like, and my favorite one to dive into...
He's literally only got like a little, like a full to the brim tub full of like old comics that he has right now, and it's literally right under the bed right behind us.
Yeah,
so.
I really do.
Like that's his like, hey, if you want to read comics, you have this whole tub that you can look into, dude.
And they are in absolutely no order at all. I've organized it like 16 times, and
can I just say that like they're the one that's caught in my eye, but I've like it's never left my head is Marvel monkeys or apes or whatever that universe is.
The ape universe, yeah.
The ape universe.
What's that about?
What's that
about? I don't know. I don't know that universe.
Well, obviously, my favorite character in that one is Spider Monkey. So
wait, is it just like all of the Marvel heroes but as monkeys?
All of the Marvel characters are like ape sapiens or something like that, like along the species of apes. There's only like two human characters, but all of them are monkeys or gorillas. I think actually Captain America is like a white back gorilla. Spider Monkey is a spider monkey. Oh, but that pales in comparison to the other one. To Peter Porker as Spider-Ham. And I love that guy.
Can we actually shift a little bit of focus over to, like, the Into the Spider-Verse trailer?
Yeah, because, I mean, all of us like Spider-Man anyway, so shifting just a little bit over here.
Would you say he's the most popular, though? Of all the heroes?
Out of all the heroes in Marvel, I honestly think Spider-Man has the biggest following, except for maybe Wolverine.
Nah, he's talking about Spider-Ham, Austin.
No, yes, obviously. Spider-Ham.
I know what you're talking about. I was trying to troll
Marvel
Austin.
Universe. Fight me.
But
I was trying to troll you.
I think Spider-Man definitely has that following, but recently I would say also Deadpool is a good contender in there. especially with
Yeah,
the recent movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Deadpool's always had a pretty loyal and a pretty big fan base towards him. Like, everyone loves the Merc with the mouth and everything else with him. But with Spider-Man being around as long as he has, and God knows how long Spider-Man's been around, Spider-Man probably does honestly have the bigger following. Like,
well, why do you think that there's a crossover series between the two? Like, those are the top two characters. Why do you think that?
Yeah, and why do you think Deadpool always has the hot for Spider-Man?
He just likes Spider-Man. Platonic friendship.
It's platonic. But honestly, yeah, I would say Spidey would be the most popular. If you walked around and asked some random people who liked Marvel, odds are they would say Spidey, and odds are they'd say someone else. But Spider-Man would probably be more or less what you get.
No, definitely. But I do remember we said the whole Marvel and DC like comparison and the blending of the two and everything. But from what I recall,
because you guys are ignorant.
Didn't Stan Lee work on DC as well? Did he not work a little bit on DC comics?
I wouldn't know for sure. I may have to look that up. I don't know.
Yeah, that one I actually might have to research.
He may have worked there at one point, because I do believe that that Marvel was established after DC was made. Sorry, no, Marvel was made. Because DC
their first hero came out after Superman and everybody too.
Yeah, because DC used to be the comic books that were being published. Like, it wasn't even just superheroes. Like, for a long time, they were going through phases of what comic books were popular. For a long time, they were all anthology comic books. Like, there was always a different issue that would be put out. It wasn't always even the same character that was holding it together, which is probably why you don't see that as often as you used to anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know the facts about him actually working at DC. I do know that he did respect the friendly rivalry between DC and Marvel, but he was always a man that I've noticed anyway. That was always, if you like blueberries better than strawberries, who's really going to stop you kind of thing. Like, if you like Marvel more than DC or DC more than Marvel, you do you, and you just go about your day, really. He was very open and very open-minded with his properties and other properties, and everybody. He treated everybody with respect. Whenever someone, the entire fandom not too long ago, came to him about his health and abusiveness rumors happening in his household and stuff like that, he actually came forth and addressed them to the public, saying that everything in the household is fine, and he appreciates everybody coming to his aid, asking how his health is and asking how he's doing, checking up on him, because we all kind of see him like a grandpa that we all just love. And if you guys are listening to this podcast and you guys do only like anime and don't like anything having to do with comics, one, I applaud you for making it this far in the podcast in the first place, and two, these are basically my versions of anime, the ones that I'm so passionate about. Every single time you guys hear Jaden talking about anime in his podcast and me talking along with him and just kind of fumbling over my words and going around with what he says, that's exactly what's happening here, but in reverse. And that's exactly what Stan Lee specifically really did for me, because Marvel is personally what got me into it in the first place. I mean,
go ahead. Finish, yeah.
Okay.
You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because you were talking about Stan Lee and everything, how he's so open and everything. I think just one quality I just appreciated from Stan Lee is those little appearances he did in those movies, and they were always comical, and they were always really funny, and they were just short and sweet, and it just made me see him as someone.
Stan Lee cameos.
Yeah, the Stan Lee cameos. It made me feel like he's a very humorous person, someone who likes to be a little included here and there, and just, he's not necessarily the face of Marvel, but he doesn't mind getting on the front line of it, and being in the movie, in the Avenger movie where he's there and he's delivering a package. He's is this for someone who is there? Or when he's in the bar in Deadpool and he's acting as a disc jockey, I think. He's there in the movies and he's present, and I really enjoyed that. And I saw an article by comicbook.com, if I'm not mistaken. I could be completely wrong when I say this, but I think there was one more cameo that was filmed before his passing, so we will get to see him one last time before he I have a feeling I know
and I have a feeling I know which movie that is. I have a feeling that the last one we're going to see is Avengers 4 or Infinity Wars 2, but there could be movies coming after that he cameoed in as well. I could be wrong. But I am actually happy that you brought up the Stan Lee cameos, because that was what I was going to bring up a little later on. I wanted all three of us to go around and say what our favorite Stan Lee cameo was in all of the Marvel Universe. So this could be from anything from the games.
I said mine, I think. Yeah.
You already said yours?
When did you say yours?
I just thought you were listing examples. So.
Yeah, examples, but those examples were also my favorite. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
Well, can you repeat it again, just for the people who weren't paying attention, like me?
Yeah, for sure. I was in the Avengers movie. I think Captain America was there with another character, and I think it was Tony Stark, or they're talking or something. And then this Stanley's just like knocking at the door. He's like, "All right, who's this UPS? Who's this package for? Hey." Hello, and he's like knocking, and they're just like, "What is that? Is that for you? Is that for me? Who ordered anything?" And the other one when he was in the bar in Deadpool, the first Deadpool movie, and he was acting as a disc jockey. That was pretty good. And then I just remember like there was one a Fantastic Four movie that was so bad he didn't even make a cameo, and like everyone was like, the movie's bad when Stanley doesn't make a cameo.
So the Avengers one that you're thinking of, he was dropping off a package to Tony, and when they answered the door, he said, "Is this for Tony Stank?" And then Rhodey's just like, yes, this is Tony Stank. So they just like...
Which one was that? Was that the...
This was Age of Ultron, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't seen Age of Ultron. I've seen the majority of the other ones. That's one of the few that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah. But out of the ones that you have seen, then, let's just roll right into you. Which one was your favorite Stan Lee?
I don't know if Jayan has seen this one, but probably the... I would be between the cameo and the Spider-Man video game, or I guess mine are just like the Spider-Man games, because or just like in Spider-Man. My favorite one is the cameo in Amazing Spider-Man 1, like with the lizard fight while he's like in the library.
You don't hear anything in the fight. You just see the entire fight between Lizard and Spider-Man, and Stan Lee is just being a janitor with headphones on, listening to classical music. Okay, librarian.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, and
listening to classical music,
fighting with Lizard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're just seeing the background, but you're just also watching Stan Lee like stack these books and just do his thing. It's like, what the fuck?
It's also kind of funny to see Stan Lee wear headphones.
It really kind of is. I honestly related to him so much in that scene, though. So
I was in the library today, so I could completely relate.
Yeah. So that was actually one that I was going to talk about too. But
just knocked his microphone.
Well, it happens. But I'm gonna have to agree with Kyo in saying like the Spider-Man video game is one of my favorites. But
it was also one of his favorites.
Yeah, it is one of
as he says.
Yeah, as
I was
he
saying.
Says. So if you guys are unfamiliar, in the 2018 Spider-Man game that came out this year, there is I said 2018, but whatever.
I was gonna shut my mouth on that one.
Blah, 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 blah.
Jayan, cut this out.
There's a scene where Peter and MJ are having lunch together, and as Mary Jane is leaving, Stan Lee makes his cameo saying, "It's so good to see you two together again. You two were always my favorites." And it just hits you so hard in the heart. Like, it just gives you feels, because if you're a big Spider-Man nut like me, seeing Peter and MJ together and then seeing Stan Lee say exactly that is just heartwarming, and at the same time kind of heartbreaking. But probably, and you guys can hate me all you want on this one, but one of the ones that I always get a chuckle at is his cameo in the Deadpool movie, or not Deadpool, sorry, in the Daredevil movie.
What was that one? I don't remember
that was when Matt was using his cane for the first time, getting used to his blindness, and Stan was about to walk into a moving bus without, well, I mean, he's blind, but without looking, Matt used his cane to stop Stan, and then the bus passed, and then Matt walked along the sidewalk with Stan just looking down the paper and looking at the boy like, how in the hell did that happen? Like, there's no dialogue, there's nothing like that. It's just a whole big visual gag with it, and I love it. And I do have a soft spot for the Daredevil movie, but I love that scene specifically.
It seems like Stan has like a or like he had an interest in like making sure that he was in as many of his movies as possible, almost as if like it feels like he has to be at his like his children's dance recitals for every for like every time it happens, and that's kind of like what the movies are to him. They're recitals, and he loves his creations so much, and that that he's getting into these movies just for the sake of like being there for those movies, except for that one Fantastic Four movie.
Really the ones that are owned by Fox.
He
he didn't really do cameos in any of the X-Men movies either.
Yeah, well, he did actually cameo in the first two Fantastic Four movies, the older ones.
Oh, the ones that had
in the
Captain
early 2000s.
America as Human Torch?
Yeah,
the best Human Torch we've gotten so far, by the way.
I would have to agree with that. I always loved the Human Torch. It was a really, really good a hero, which I don't know why, but it makes you think of. Have you guys ever seen the parody movie? I don't want to get too off topic. Superhero movie with Drake Bell.
I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop you right there.
What movie?
I'm gonna stop you right there because that's in the movie category. That's like epic movie, disaster movie, stuff like that. It's one of those. Yes. So I'm gonna stop you right there because that's not talking about on my podcast.
No. I just wanted to say very quickly the reason why I found out about the Human Torch is through that movie. I just want to know if you guys do.
There's so many better ways to be introduced.
Okay, just let him talk, man.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was just one scene, and then the guy just goes on fire, and I'm like, wait, what? Is this like a character in somewhere? And then I find out about the Fantastic Four through there, and the Human Torch was just the coolest one out of the four of those guys. The Thing always felt like a Rocky version of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had the Elastic. I'm not good with the names. Elastic Person, and then we had
Mr. Fantastic,
Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Human Torch.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it was a
Marvel
pretty
nut.
cool. It was no, yo, this is all good. That group was always really cool to me. I really enjoyed the way they came together and the way they fought together. It was a mini X-Men squad. It was just something that I really thought was like just awesome. I was like, oh my god, like that's the Fire guy. It was just something I would fan about. It was always cool to me. Those guys.
Yeah, I do. Human Torch actually was probably my second biggest go-to when I was growing up. Like, it was Spider-Man, then him, then Nightcrawler, and I had one more big one, and it wasn't Cap or Iron Man or really any of the Avengers, now that I think about it. And I'm trying to remember who it was. Actually, I think it was Ghost Rider. It was either Ghost Rider or Daredevil, one of those two. The thing that I really want to get across here is Spider-Man, Wolverine, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, all these characters, all the characters in Marvel, we wouldn't have them if not for Stan Lee. And so many of these characters have shaped so many of our childhoods. Some of us might like Spider-Man or hate him. Some of us might like Punisher or hate him. Some of us might like Green Goblin, hate him. Rogue, love, hate. X-Men in general, love, hate. Fantastic, love, hate. It's just, no matter how you look at it, comics, especially for us here in the States, have shaped us in so many ways, whether for the better or worse. And there was such a big part of our childhood. And to have a man of that influence and a man of that such caring and forgiveness in his heart gone, it hurts. But at the same time, his legacy of Marvel and all the characters and all the lives he's helped shape and form, it's not going to be disappeared or gone. It's not going to disappear. I'm fumbling. Sorry. He's still going to be here with us. He may be gone, but his creations are still going to be here. And I know for a fact that for generations to come, even if Marvel does go down a spiral without him here watching over it, we will be going back to the ones that we know Stan worked on and showing the next generations of comic lovers and show them where we came from. And to me, that means a whole lot more than just, oh, he's gone, now it's never going to be the same. Yeah, he's gone. and it sucks. It hurts. But what he lived for and what he built is always going to be here.
I have two questions to ask you if you don't mind, Hotshot.
Yo,
What do you think? The first one would be, what do you think the future is of Marvel now that he's gone?
The skepticism in me is saying that it's not going to have the same quality, but at the same time, it's Marvel. Marvel, even when Stan was alive, sometimes it would be the greatest thing in the history of man, and other times your in the toilet would look better. But
okay then.
But it's still a strong and good universe, a strong, good connection. The MCU has nothing but proof of Marvel being strong and everything else. And the actors and everything they've chosen to be for it. The Spider-Man game in general, still a really good staple of it. Marvel has its bad moments, and as does every company, such as Disney and DC and everything else. But it also shines bright when it needs to. So I do believe that the future of Marvel is still great, and I don't believe that it's going to be dampened any. But there is still going to be road bumps, as there is with everything.
And my second question would be, what do you think Stan Lee would want out of Marvel now that he's gone? What do you think? What do you think he wants the next generation of comic book lovers, the people who are still working on Marvel? What do you think he wants to happen to Marvel? You see what I mean?
I'm gonna let Kyo take this one.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that there's a certain thing to keep in mind with the fact or the knowledge, knowing that he's passed away recently. What we should be keeping in mind is that Stan Lee's Marvel comic book fans are not alone, and especially with nostalgia and nerd culture being much more embraced than it ever has been before. It should be known that I think Stan trusts the next generation of fans of Marvel, because who better to make these movies and these cartoons and TV shows and such to continue on the legacy of Stan Lee and his creations than the people who grew up reading the comics and loving them. And I have a strong feeling that he's put his trust in those people, and that he greatly appreciates the way that everybody is moving forward with Marvel.
I mean, I think that's a really good way you put it. To me, this, like, it's so hard because, like, he's gone. We said it multiple times. We're probably gonna say it a bunch more times, and it was in his hands, and he had executive decisions being made, and we had his guidance, and now that guidance is no longer there, and it's something that doesn't put fear in me, but it's something that it just hurts that it's not there anymore. It just hurts that he's not there anymore.
Frankly put, it just kind of sucks that he's gone. Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
pretty much what it comes down to.
And I know everyone could be like, that's the cycle of life. That's how it works. Yes, but still, it's not something that's easily it's gonna be easy for me to just accept. I'm still like, just not. First it was frustration, and now we're doing this podcast. It's not nervousness. It's just the fact that it's never going to be the same, and adapting to that change that makes it hard for me to just accept it. I don't know. It's just tough.
I'm not a man who knew Stan personally, and that's even saying that I never even managed to go to a con to actually meet him or shake his hand or thank him or anything like that. But I don't think that he would want us to dwell on his passing, and he would want us to keep looking forward to what Marvel and what the message he left behind is. I don't think he would want us to just see Marvel as characters. He built these characters, and we felt a connection to all of them through him, that it's okay to sacrifice, it's okay to be afraid, it's okay to be nervous, it's okay to be human, and it's okay to be different. All these messages and more are everything I learned from Marvel, and an extension to Stan Lee. A lot of what I believe in is heavily influenced on the comics and the lessons I've learned as a kid, and that's exactly what I'm going to keep doing. It hurts, and again, Jaden just said that we've said that so many times, but it does. When one of your childhood heroes and icons passes or leaves, it hurts us, but at the same time, we can't let it be in vain, and we can't let it just die. We can't just accept the fact that they're gone and now nothing will be the same. We have to accept the fact that they're gone and continue doing the work that they left for us to do. And I do fully intend to do that with Marvel, with supporting them, with going along the messages that Stan has left us, and I fully intend to do exactly what I've been doing.
And let me ask you this, and it might sound like a simple question. How have you been doing it? If someone's listening to this right now and they're experiencing what we're experiencing, how are you getting through it? Because some people are emotionally invested in this universe, and they're still hurting. It's been maybe 2-3 weeks at this point. How? Just how? Is there something easy to do? Is it mourning? What is it? Because it's
something
hard.
It's something that's easy to do, and it's a necessity to do, and it's something that we've known to do since Marvel first existed. In short, it's to be someone's hero. All you really have to do is either put your arm around them, let them know they're okay, let them know that they have someone watching over them, and just be a kind, generous, and caregiving person. Just go throughout life how you would wish to be treated, and if someone is going through all this heartbreak and all of this hurt because someone has passed, they are not alone, and they never will be. You just have to be there for them and let them know that everything will be okay, and work through it with them. Nothing in this world that's worth having is easy. And when something that you do have is taken away from you, that has impacted so many other people, we are not alone, and we will be there to support everybody through this. We are making this podcast right now in remembrance of someone who not only gave us a childhood, but someone who has influenced so many other people, and letting them know that they aren't alone in this. And to me, that is doing some of the greatest good that I can think of to do, is let them know that we will be okay. And that Stan passing, we realize how much of a thing this is for everybody, but that they are not alone in this endeavor.
I mean, that's very well put, and it's, I don't know, it's just well put, and I mean, you're clearly in your element here, and I'm clearly not. Let's be honest here.
You're so lost.
I'm not lost. I'm just. It's hard to put it together when it's such a hard impact, and it's happened a few weeks ago, and I knew it, and I came to terms with it. But at the same time, talking about it right now is just brings it all back, and it's hard to just put it in perspective and to express it properly and vocally and in a nice, suitable way for the audience to enjoy, because that's the point of a podcast. But at the same time, guys, it just sucks. And I'm sorry. And I know I need to be that person that you described, someone who's going to be caring and help another if they're with what they're going through with Stan's passing. And you're right that I believe that Stan, we want it to be that way, for us to be kind to the next person. And those are wonderful and great points that you're putting together. It's just this person provided an entire universe for comic book nerds all around, and fans like me all around, and I'm just going to be forever thankful for that gift. It's going to be something that I'm going to appreciate and continue appreciating, and just I'm lucky to have been born in this generation to have experienced Stan Lee's work. That's the way I feel about it now.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
I do feel like that for the message of this, we have drilled it home so many different times. And in that note, I do feel like we should cut the podcast here. Otherwise, there are so many things that we could say about Stan Lee, and so many memories that we could go about when it comes to remembering Marvel and childhood and everything else like that. But I don't want this podcast to just be about that. I want this podcast to be about the man who brought us all this, and I want this to be about remembering him. And in order to do that, I do feel like we should leave it here with just the message of carry out what Stan has left for us to do in all of his messages. Be kind, be courteous, be welcoming of others. It's not just a universe he's left for us, but he's left us something that he's want us to learn through these characters. And I sincerely hope that all of us are getting through the good messages and not taking anything that we have for granted until. So on that note, guys, so you said what you had to, Kyo. Do you have any other final thoughts on Stan Lee or Marvel or anything you want to get out?
I think I've said everything that I really wanted to express in this podcast, and like I think we have pretty much like gone on long enough to like drive our message home, and I think it's I think we've made our point, and
Okay.
I think that Stan would probably appreciate that we took our time out of our day to bring this all up.
All right, guys. In that note, I'm just going to leave us with one final word, and it's a word all comic fans know everywhere. Excelsior.
Bye, guys.